Hi, it is a great honor to have with us Pinar Ozcan, Professor of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the Said Business School in Oxford. Really excited to have you there. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's super exciting to talk about entrepreneurship with you. So, in addition to teaching entrepreneurship and innovation at Said Business School, Oxford, I also do research in different types of entrepreneurship, currently obsessed with data and AI and blockchain and the way that they affect, in general, the way that technology affects entrepreneurship and innovation.
Fantastic, thank you. If we can jump straight in with the right question, with the first question, given your position at the forefront of innovation, what trends do you think will shape the future of startups in the next decade?
So I think that technology and both technology itself and the regulation of technology will shape the future of entrepreneurship, as we've seen such a boom of AI and AI-based innovation in the past couple of years. I think that the future is going to be filled with AI and blockchain, and we see this both in the accelerator that we have at Oxford, as well as in any type of entrepreneurship activity that I'm involved in. But I think if the last decade was a decade of let's say incubation of these technologies, the next decade is going to be one of regulation of these technologies, because regulation is falling behind. And AI has the potential to create risks both for businesses and both for humans. While I believe that the future is going to be very exciting for us to see, I think regulation is going to be extremely important. And that means that entrepreneurs will have to understand and work with regulation in the future more than they have before.
Absolutely, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's already what we're seeing. So good to hear it's going to keep going. Um, could you talk us through one piece of your research that you find particularly exciting, and yeah, that you look forward to sharing?
Of course. So, my research from the beginning has been about ecosystems, although sometimes ecosystems can have different names. So, you can call them alliance portfolios, you can call them their type of network, etc. But the type of research that excites me is, in a sense, showing the dark side of basically when things don't happen. Because in research, typically, in order for you to write about something, it has to happen. Only if you go into the field and if you talk to people and if you understand what they're working on, can you actually identify things that never happen. For example, a few years ago, when I was going to all these mobile conferences, I realized that everybody was working on mobile payments. But mobile payments as a technology were already ripe and ready to be used in the late 90s. However, until 2015 or so, we didn't have mobile payments as commercialized and ready to use everywhere. And I looked into why that was, and it turns out it wasn't that consumers were kind of scared about it, or that the technology wasn't ready. It was purely the fact that different types of players from different markets, basically telcos on one side and then banks on the other side, thought of themselves as the center of their own universe, of their own industry, and they were much less willing than industry players in one industry to cooperate. And so this was, in a sense, a clash of the giants, and that caused a very useful service, as we've seen during COVID, to not emerge for many years. So there was basically a 10, 15-year delay in the commercialization of mobile payment technologies. So this is the type of research that excites me, something that shows the world as it could have been, and the kinds of innovations that we're missing out on and why, so that in the future we don't make the same mistakes.
Understood. That's really interesting. Just on that, would you say there's anything that you're scared that we might be missing out on now in terms of innovation that in sort of 10, 20 years down the line, doing research on is going to become more apparent, but perhaps we're blind to?
I don't think so. I think right now there's ample opportunities for research in all fields, and perhaps one thing that I see though in my research in banking and fintech is that because regulations are not up to speed with technology, A lot of interesting things that, for example, fintech entrepreneurs want to do for their ventures are not allowed by regulation. Of course, it's a really fine line because, especially in banking, we're talking about sensitive data and sensitive assets. Nobody wants to lose their money or their financial data. But it's also a difficult situation where things like, okay, let's do cloud banking in a remote part of the world. That could be blocked by a regulator in that part of the world, right? So not all regulators are up to speed with technologies and with blockchain and with AI, and that lack of readiness can end up being an obstacle in the way of entrepreneurship and innovation.
That makes sense. It's really, really interesting to hear. Um, in terms of, successes and failures, could you discuss a success story from one of your students or alumni that you think have made a significant impact in the startup world?
There's several alumni and otherwise entrepreneurs that I'm really, really proud of. In fact, because of this, I've started a case series where I feature some of these entrepreneurs. It's called the Female Founders in Fintech Case Series, where we look at females that are using technology in order to address financial inclusion. So I'll give you a concrete example. One of our alumni, Padmini Gupta, has gone to Dubai after graduating from her MBA. And then she realized that the service workers lived in poor conditions, and they were mostly getting paid in cash because they didn't have bank accounts. And they were losing half of this money while they were trying to send it to their families in other parts of the world, typically India, Bangladesh, Iran, so basically close to the Middle East. And so, in order to change this situation, she realized that she couldn't just give these individuals bank accounts because English was an issue, as well as financial literacy. These were all issues. So it was only after she trained her chatbots in 17, 18 different dialects from these places was she able to start communicating with these people, understand their needs, understand their issues. And on top of building a bank just dedicated to them where they could speak their native language and get understood and get financial services, she built a payments infrastructure that allowed these individuals to directly send money at a much cheaper rate from, say, from the Middle East, from UAE to Bangladesh and India and other parts of the world, Philippines. And so this is something that I really call financial inclusion. It's using technology, using AI in order to make services faster, better, cheaper, so that more people can benefit from them.
That's very good to hear, and some optimism in there for the growth of future startups with the AI. Moving on to a sort of connected theme is that one of your more recent papers discusses the role of social entrepreneurs as catalysts in their ecosystems. How would you say the ecosystem differs for social impact startups compared to more traditional startup environments, and what implications does that have for founders who are building in the impact space?
Yeah, so that research I'm particularly excited about because it shows that if you want to make impact and if you want to have social impact, you need to think about your ecosystem and your role in that ecosystem differently. A typical idea that we have of ecosystems in the West is that you start them and everything revolves around you, and you're what we call an ecosystem orchestrator, and that's a very powerful position to be in. However, if you want to have impact in a particular area, then making people dependent on you in that area is exactly the wrong thing to do. So what we saw was that successful entrepreneurs who wanted to change something in a particular locality ended up building a self-sustaining ecosystem instead, where they would catalyze things, would jumpstart conversations, jumpstart relationships, and build the ecosystem, but not make the ecosystem depend on themselves. So, in other words, they would remain invisible in the ecosystem, but visible from outside, meaning visible internationally, because their goal was to actually replicate it in many different areas, one after the other. So that type of ecosystem building, which we call an ecosystem catalyst, is a very different kind of role, but I think it's the right role for a social entrepreneur to have, because you are not building dependencies, rather you're building self-sustaining ecosystems that you can withdraw yourself from.
That's amazing to hear, and definitely really, really inspirational. So our last question is, if you could have dinner with any historical figure, which one would it be and why?
Of course, there are many people that I would choose from the world of entrepreneurship and innovation, but I'll actually make a personal choice this time, and I'm gonna say I would have a dinner with Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who is the founder of modern Turkey. I grew up in Turkey, and I finished my primary and secondary education there. And then I had the privilege to get a scholarship to study in the United States and then in Europe, etc. What I couldn't have been today is really a modern woman who studies, social science and teaches and is a thought leader in this space. It's all due to Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, because he is the one who gave women the right to vote, the right to education, got them out of the mandatory clothing that they were wearing before, and allowed them to have a role in society. And so that itself is something that many people try to take away from, especially in some countries, including Turkey. And I would have loved to have a conversation with Atatürk where I would have asked him about the future of Turkey and what could be done in order to save democracy and the rights of women.
Fantastic, and very topical in the wake of the recent election results as well. Thank you so much, Professor Pinar,
Exactly.
for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to host you and to listen to your insights. We're really, really excited to share this. And we just want to thank you again for giving us your time this morning.
Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.